Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Eberline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. Attorney Alexander is an experienced litigation attorney. She's been practicing in Atlanta, Georgia for over 15 years. I know she only looks 15, but she's been practicing for 15 years. She began her legal career serving the community as a public defender in Fulton County before she entered private practice, working with various law firms, and now has her own amazing firm. And love the shirt. Talk to us about you, who you are, what you do, and it's related to your shirt. I love it.
Yes, that's why I wore my shirt, because it can definitely lean into what I am, what I care about, who I am as an attorney, of course. Latrice Alexander. I have a national civil rights and personal injury firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. We do civil rights all across the United States, and I specialize in 1983 cases, which is police brutality. So that is my level of care and things that I really want to focus on now. So
that's incredible. Latrice, you have such an amazing story, and I'm so tempted to tell it for you, but explain to us, how did you get into civil rights? Because not a lot of attorneys are running at the opportunity to do civil rights. If y'all don't know about marketing civil rights, there are not a lot of cases really that are even viable, and it's not an easy space to be in. So tell us about your journey.
So it is a very unconventional journey going from personal injury to civil rights. I started out working with a firm that did higher level litigation in personal injury. So we did trucking accidents, some med mal, and just different kind of cases. And as different cases came up, my mentor at the time started moving towards the civil rights space. And I think it came up after he had an EEOC case. And so he had went from there, and then he kind of started delving into civil rights more. And I'm like, how did you get into this, you know? So he's like, you got to come on, you got to do it. It's fun. And I'm just like, nah, I'm okay.
It's fun? He said it's fun?
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm okay. That's really a weird area of law, right? So with civil rights, you have to have, of course, a criminal background because it deals with a lot of criminal aspects of law. I was a public defender, a previous criminal attorney, so I had that background. My counterpart, he was actually a cop. So he worked at the sheriff's department. He was also in the military. So it aligned with the things that he was doing as well. So when you pair your criminal background with injuries, which is what we handle in 1983, it kind of went together perfectly, making that transition. The only thing that people don't tell you is that the cases are very difficult, and they take a lot of money up front, and they take a lot of time, which is why a lot of people don't want to do them. But one of the caveats is under the federal civil code, if you win your civil rights case, you get all of that money. Like, there's fees put into the civil rights statute. So if you spend $1 million to put a case out, you can get that $1 million back at the end of the case.
Oh.
So even if your client wins like $20, you still get your attorney's fees regardless. So that's kind of an incentive that a lot of people don't know about. So it makes it worth it, but you have to have the upfront funding to be able to make the case work. And that's where the biggest challenge comes probably to most people.
Yeah. So the types of cases that you handle, give us an example of a case that you've handled. How did you handle because I know they can be very emotional. Mm-hmm. So how did you handle the emotional aspect while still staying in touch with your humanity to care for your client?
I think for me, civil rights is just a form of activism, and I've always been an
Mm.
activist for my community. And being a black woman myself, having a black son, having a black husband, having black family members, it's something that I automatically gravitate towards. So it touches me in a way that's beyond just for myself and my family, but I actually have the empathy and sympathy for it. So it is hard when I see these cases because I see myself in them. But I think a lot of times when
Mm.
have that aspect, it makes you a better attorney because you specifically understand what the people are dealing with and how it goes. And for an example, I used to do immigration and
Mm-hmm.
criminal immigration. I'm a good attorney, right? So I can do anything when it comes to attorney work or law, but I didn't have the same pull with it. And I was noticing that I wasn't getting the best results with immigration law. And I think that the main reason that didn't happen is because I wasn't an immigrant, right? I didn't understand their
Mm.
story. I didn't understand the plight. I didn't have the raw emotion that goes along with it. So it's kind of like doing something for a cause, but not really knowing the root of the cause. So even though I was good at what I was doing, but it wasn't that passion pull there. And when I got into civil rights, it was like it hit like, wow, this is what it means when you're passion driven about something. You understand it, it personally affects you. Not only can you empathize, but you can sympathize, and you can actually put yourself into the shoes of the people that you're working with. And that's what kind of got me into this area.
So what I'm hearing, I'm going to extract a piece of advice that I picked up on, um, that you gave yourself and that you implied. If you're an attorney and you're practicing the law, you can be the best attorney, but you're going to be better at whatever area of law touches you as a person,
Mm-hmm.
that you can get emotionally invested in.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I've worked with attorneys, as you know, for a really long time, and I find that a lot of attorneys, almost as a defense mechanism, want to numb out the emotional component,
Right.
because in their mind, and it's an interesting belief, I don't know if you agree with it or not, that if they're emotional, they're not going to be able to think clearly and be as good. But I'm hearing you're kind of saying the opposite.
Mm-hmm. That emotion drives you because you really want to make this work. Because as I'm fighting for my clients, I'm fighting for myself, I'm fighting for my children, I'm fighting for my son, I'm fighting for our future. And it's like, this isn't just about them, it's about everybody who comes up like them. This isn't about one black person that's being shot or one person that's abused by the police. This is about a whole community, a whole culture. And being able to step up and fight for that is so much bigger in my eyes.
So now I'm thinking, okay, if I was a lawyer, if I became a lawyer tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
what area of the law would I want to practice based on this advice that you just gave? And mine would definitely be hands down family law, because I went through it.
Yeah.
Okay. But now I'm thinking, how do I stop myself from like crying with every client, from like, wanting to like go after every like deadbeat like guy that's trying to take some girl's money, like, because that was my experience. Like, how do you draw, like, how do you manage that? I don't even know if I'm asking the question right. And I'm such a good
No,
interviewer, except right now. But I think the question that I'm trying to ask is, I can imagine myself being so emotionally invested and so passionate that I would be an amazing family law attorney, because I would pull an all nighter, do whatever I needed to do to win for my clients, because I know what that's like to be in that kind of situation. At least my avatar would be women like me, primary breadwinner, working mom, etc. I already got it planned out, so y'all check with me in a couple of years. Um, but I'm also imagining it would be hard to not let it consume me emotionally. And that's scary. And I think that a lot of attorneys, that's why they shut it off. How do
I
you do it?
when you quit caring is when you need to quit practicing, right? Because it no longer becomes a passion project. And if you're doing this, like to me, I always say I'm doing God's work. That's my goal.
Mm.
And of course you're going to get sad. Of course, I still watch videos and I get, frustrated, or I'll have
Mm.
tears, or I'll get mad and I'll have to stop. Sometimes you have to put fail safes in. So now I have a paralegal who watches the videos before I do, and he gives
Okay.
me a summary to prepare myself for what I'm about to see, right? And I'm already like mentally like, okay, 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 let me, but you're never gonna,
Oh.
if I'm an attorney and I'm watching a bloodied, bruised black man on the floor and it doesn't affect me, then I don't need to be in this line of work.
Right.
Because anything, the whole point of it is the emotion, is the compassion, is the feeling
Mm.
of, I see you, I see what was done to you, and because of that I want to get justice on your behalf. And if people can
Mm.
say, oh, I saw that, but it didn't really bother me, or if you can remove yourself from the situation, you don't have the passion to do the situation. So
Yeah.
for me, a lot of people will give up on civil rights, which I've learned, because it's hard, it takes time, it's not as easy. I can go get a car accident case, send someone to the doctor, it's done. With civil rights, you have to know your stuff. Like, you got to know the rules, you have to know the law, you have to know the tricks and tips of the game. And if you're not on it, you're going to give up because it's not easy. And a lot of things are easy, and that's why a lot of people want to go into it. But when you look at civil rights cases, it's very hard to find a civil rights attorney, because it's like some stuff you're just, and there are cases where people come to me and I'm like, I can't even touch that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where to start. I know you might
Yeah.
have a case, and they're like, well, I've called so many people and everybody's turned it down. And it's like, yeah, because who has the time, effort to go against like a podunk town in the bottom of Mississippi who's been harassing you and doing all these things, and I know it's a crime, but I just don't have the resources, the time, or the effort to be able to defend that, so I can't help you.
Right.
And there's so many things, there's a lot of violations of civil rights, but there's not a lot of cases of civil rights, because people
Mm.
don't want to, or a lot of attorneys don't want to go there. Even with me, I just filed a couple of cases, and my assistant's like, well, do you need to get security, like, do we have to get somebody to help? The civil rights attorneys that I work with, they have security, they have people who walk with them. You get death threats, you get called names, you get treated like trash on the internet. That's a tough pill to swallow. So you're walking into being ridiculed, you're walking into threats, you're walking into people who hate you just because you are, and you're not even the victim. So are you willing to say, I don't care about that, I want my client to get justice? Because that's what it takes, right? Even with Dalvin's
Mm.
case, people would get on my post and be like, oh, you're defending this criminal, you guys just want money, you're trash. And that's putting it lightly. But I have a client who was beat nearly to death by some officers for not having a tag displayed in the back of his car. And these are the things that people are coming at us about. Even in the hearing where the city had to vote on whether or not to give him the money, one of the city council says, do we really want our tax dollars going towards alleged criminals just because they got beat up? And you're just like,
Ooh.
you think of these things, you're like, but yet you want your tax dollars going towards officers who are unjustifiably harassing and hurting people. Like, where's the scale here? So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're an attorney and you're listening, I want to extract a really valuable tip that you gave. And I think you can even apply it in any career. If you are emotionally invested in what you're doing, that is your strength. However, in order for it to not be your weakness, you need to have a system. You need to know your triggers, and you need to have a system to help you navigate those triggers. One of the triggers that you mentioned for you is watching the footage. So then you created a system where you're not necessarily the main person watching the footage.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would solve, because I really do think there are a lot of amazing attorneys that have talked themselves out of doing certain things
Mhm.
because they just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And I think that that is an amazing, amazing tip. Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com. Latrice, if somebody is going through what they feel is a civil rights case, describe to us what that is for you, like in order to qualify for the type of practice area that you handle, and then how do they get in touch with you? So first walk us through, like, what does a good case look like? What are the elements of it? And how can people get a hold of you if they're like, oh, I think I have something, or I think I know someone that can benefit from your help?
So a good case for me, first and foremost, there has to be an injury, either a physical or a mental injury or a financial injury, meaning you were beat up, you were mentally abused, or you lost out on money, time, resources at a significant amount. So there has to be some sort of financial, emotional, or mental damage, for one. Two, it has to be done by a government or state actor. Because I do 1983 cases, that's preliminarily the police. It can be someone else in a governmental capacity, but I strictly deal with police abuse cases. A lot of times someone also has to have an arrest or a warrant being issued. So there has to be some kind of police involvement, some type of encounter where you were either arrested, a warrant was being executed at your house, or wrong place, wrong time. But there's something that goes into the aspect as well that deals with a police encounter. And then there has to be a dismissal. If there is a criminal case, we request that a dismissal is done. A lot of times officers will do things to clients and charge them with obstruction, and people will think because they were charged they don't have a right to go after the officers for the
So
damages or the injuries.
so give us an example. How can you be, yeah, give us an example.
So for example, I have the case I just filed, Nicole Buchanan, in the federal district court. The officers came to her house to execute a warrant on her son. They broke into the house, broke down the door, placed her in handcuffs, and body slammed her on the floor while she was in handcuffs, causing her to break her foot and have to get a replacement in both of her knees, right?
That's
So,
permanent damage.
yes, she wasn't necessarily the perpetrator, but she was there. And because they did what they did, they tried to charge her with obstruction, say that she was
Oh.
obstructing the process of them executing the warrant. They charged her. Of course, the case got dismissed, and we're still going after them for the harm that they did to her. A lot of times they try to charge the individual because they know that they can drag out the court case, and that once the court case goes, you kind of wear people out, and they're like, oh, this has been going on for 2 years. I'm just over it. Don't worry about it. No, 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 no. We're not doing that. We're going to go for what we need to do. So that's happened in a couple of cases where the officers knew they were wrong, and they'll try to charge the individual and get the DA's office to just kind of hold it. So it just sits there. I had one case that literally sat there for 2 years. They didn't accuse it. They didn't indict it. They didn't do anything with it. They just sat there for 2 years, and there was absolutely nothing we could do until the 2 years of statute of limitations was over to file our case. And by that time, my guy had lost money. He lost his job. He lost his veterans benefits. He lost so much in that 2 years that they think you're going to not stop. But as soon as the 2 years was up, we immediately filed the federal case.
That sounds awful. So what I'm hearing is, if you're listening right now and you know someone, maybe you're an attorney and a case has come across that you don't handle, maybe you're an individual and you've been through something like this, and you're thinking this is going to be an uphill battle, it's worth talking to you about it. And what's the process like? Can you even give them a guess? Like, how long is this going to take? What could possibly happen? Because I'm just thinking, if some of this, like that scene that you described, if that happened to me, that would be so emotionally traumatic.
Yeah.
I'm going to admit, I wouldn't want to do anything about it. I would just want to forget about it and move on.
It takes a while. I mean, Dalvin's case took us 2 years, and 2 years was short. These cases can take 3 to 4 years, and they also take a toll on you because it's going to get out there. People are going to see what's happening. The news is going to get wind of it. Like this case we filed, I didn't reach out to the news. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, we saw this complaint that you filed. You want to interview? And I'm like, whoa, I didn't even reach out. So it takes time, but justice takes time, right? Would you rather reach out to an attorney and take that 2 years and get $2 million, or
how much? Never mind. I'll deal with the trauma. I'll get a therapist. I'll talk to a friend.
He got $2.1 million for that. And the issue is because he took the time and stayed the course, and we went through what needed to go through, and he got reaped for his reward. It's funny. My co-counsel say that was the most expensive ass whipping ever.
Oh my God.
They're like, I don't think I could have took that for, $2 million. Honestly, I don't think I could have switched places with him. But if you've already been through the trauma, why not get the compensation? It's, you've been through it already.
Wow. So if you're listening to this and you know someone, it's worth having a conversation. You gave us the elements to look for in a case, but definitely it's best to just ask and find out. And we know you're probably going through a lot of emotions, but it may be worth it for you to, and also I think about the systematic impact too. The more cases like this get exposure, the more unjust people are going to think twice before doing something.
Yep.
Listen, I'm a person of color too. I've been through stuff, and not anything like that, but I've felt that intimidation and that like vulnerability. And that like almost because of the color of my skin, I was put in this awful box, and it's just it will deflate your hope in humanity.
Yeah, definitely.
And if we can, one case at a time, change that by letting people know, hey, someone's watching, someone's doing something about this. And if you're that person that's the victim and you're thinking twice about it, think about yourself, but also think about the systematic impact.
Think about if the officer in Sonia Massey, he had 5 other issues. Imagine if somebody from those issues would have filed suit and had that on record. You know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times before that may have.
He got away with it. Oof. Oh man, I'm just gonna sit with that.
Somebody else's life. So.
Well, how can somebody? I hate that we're running out of time because I could talk to you forever, and there's just so much to unpack here. We got to do this again. How can give us ways that people can get a hold of you? Your phone number, your website, your socials.
Yes, you can call my office at 678-890-5868. Online, www.thejustattorney.com. I am also The Just Attorney on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you leave me a DM there, we respond, we get back to you, set up consultations. So anywhere that you can find The Just Attorney, you can find me.
I love it. And there's one obligatory question that I completely forgot to ask you. It's a very important question related to this podcast. What is your favorite type of sandwich? Because it is a dairy sandwich.
Oh my gosh, my favorite type of sandwich, I always get from Publix a turkey sandwich with Swiss, lettuce, tomato, onion, light balsamic vinaigrette drizzle.
Really? Okay.
Turkey and Swiss on regular bread. That's my go-to.
From Publix, with the amazing Publix bread. By the way, Publix, y'all need to sponsor this podcast because we're giving you a shout out. I love their bread too. All right. Well, thank you folks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves
can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.